In this video, we will discuss about find longest special substring that occurs thrice one. You are given a string S that consists of lowercase English letters. A string is called special if it is made up of only a single character. For example, the string ABC is not special, whereas the strings DDD, ZZ, and F are special. Return the length of the longest special substring of S, which occurs at least thrice, or -1 if no special substring occurs at least thrice. So what they are saying is that in the input, we are given a string S. We need to identify the longest special substring of S. Now, what is the longest special substring? So, see, if a string is there which is having a single character, right? Single character meaning distinct characters are one, right? So, I'm saying only one character, meaning only one distinct character, and it should be occurring thrice. It should be present thrice. Such strings are known as the special strings, right? So now in the string S, you need to identify the longest special substring, meaning a string which is having only one type of character and which is present thrice in the string S. Right. So if we see in this particular case, if we try all the possible substrings, then what are all the possible substrings we have? First we have A, then we have AA, then AAA, and then AAAA, right? So if I write A is coming once, then AA coming once, AAA coming once, 4A coming once, right? Then this in itself is also a substring, this A in itself is also a substring, and this also in itself is a substring. So single A is coming as 4 times, we can see, right? Then if we see double A, so this is also a valid substring, this is also a valid substring, and this is also a valid substring. So double A total we have 3. Then if we see for triple A, so one is this and one is this, right? So we have 2. And for 4A's, we have just this one, right? Now, out of these, which are the substrings that are present thrice? That means where the count is greater than equals to 3. So it is double A and single A, right? Now you need to find out the one which is having larger length, right? We need to find out longest special substring, right? So here double A is having length 2 and single A is having length 1. So this is what we will return, 2. The length of that longest special substring will be 2 and 2 will be returned as our answer, right? Then if we see in this particular case, so A once, B once, C once, D, E once, F once. And the other substrings are A, B, B, C, but we won't be considering them. Why? Because we need to consider the substrings where we are having only one distinct character. That is why we were able to consider all of these here. But in this particular case, we can only consider these many substrings. Now in all these, there is no substring which is present thrice, right? So in this particular case, our answer will be -1. In this, it was 2, right? Then if we look at this particular example, so here, this is one substring, then this, then this. So first, let's write down all the substrings of length 1. So A is 1, then B is 1, C is 1, then again A is 2, B is 2, A is 3, right? This is what it will look like. Then if we look at the substrings of length 2, so AB cannot take, BC cannot take, CA, AB, BA we cannot take. So these are the only possible substrings which are having only one distinct type of character, right? Now out of these 3, which all are present thrice? So it is only A whose length is 1. So in this particular case, our answer will be 1. Right? So this is what we are asked to do. Now, given the constraints of the problem that the length of the S will be less than equals to 50, right? In the worst case, the length of this string can be 50. So can't we apply brute force over here? What if we check all the substrings in the string and then for all of them, we maintain this count, right? And from this count, we are able to identify what is going to be our answer, right? And how are we going to generate all the substrings? So we can keep a pointer start at the starting, right? And then we can move our end pointer every time. We will increase it by 1 and we will be able to get all the substrings, right? So what I'm saying is that we can run a loop, right, of start from 0 till n. That is the end of the array, right? Then inside this, we can run another loop of end starting from start, right, and going till end, right. With this, we will be able to get all the substrings, which will be starting at index start and ending at index end, right. Now, inside this, how are we going to maintain this count? So for storing these, what we can do is that we can create a map, right? We can create a map, and inside that, in the key, we can store the string, and in the value, we can store the count, right? Now, if you look here, do we need to create this substring every time? Is there any need of creating it? So here, the character is always A. We know that in a special string, the character is always going to be unique. The only difference here is the length of the substring, right? If let's suppose B would also be present here, then for that also we would be having a B2 and BB1, right? In that case also character is B only. Only the difference is in its length, right? So instead of creating substring every time and then storing it as a key in the map, what we can do is that in the key, we can store a pair of character, comma, its substring's length, right? So in this, what we will do is that it will be present as A comma 1, A comma 2, A comma 3 and A comma 4, because here the length was 1, so 1, here 2, so 2, here 3, so 3, and here 4, so 4. This is what we can store, and the values will remain same: 4, 3, 2, 1, right? And then inside this, once we have generated all the substrings and updated our map, we can check that what all keys are there who are having their values greater than equals to 3. So it will be these two pairs, right? Then in this, whichever is having this value as maximum, because this was the substring length, right? So this you can return as your answer, right? So this is what we are supposed to do. So you'll just create a map over here, and there you will store a pair, which will be a character and an integer, and the value will also be an integer. We can name it MP, right? And then this will give you all the substrings, right? But in the map, we only need to update those substrings which are having only one character in it, which are having only one type of character in it, right? So what we can do is that we can create a variable current character, and in this we can store the current character that we are considering, right? Now inside this loop, if at any point the character becomes not equals to this current character, then we can stop this loop there itself, because we do not need to consider other characters in our string, right? And if it is equals to the current character, then we can update that length inside this map, right? So since we want to store length also, so we will create another variable length whose value we can keep as 0. We are keeping this 0 and we are starting end from start, not start plus 1, right? So inside this we can check that if our current is equals to the end index in S, then in that case we will increase our length by 1, right? And in the map we will update the character comma length, and we will increment it by 1, right? Else we will break out of our loop, because now we won't be able to get valid substrings, right? So with this, we will be able to update our map. Now, as I told you, we will iterate inside this map. For each key, we will check that if its value is greater than equals to 3, then we will take the maximum of this substring length, because we need to return the longest special string, right? So that also we can just iterate inside the map that, okay, for auto I in MP, and then length will be present in I dot first dot second, right? So I dot first dot second will give you this length, right? So you will also have to maintain an answer variable which will be 0 initially, right? And then you can check that if I dot second, right? I dot second meaning the count that we are storing, right? So if I dot second is greater than equals to 3 and the length is greater than answer, right? Because we need to find out the longest string, longest substring. So if this is the case, then answer will become equals to the length, right? Now in the end, you can check that if answer is 0, then return -1, otherwise return answer itself, right? So This is how we can solve this problem. Here we are running a loop n times over the string s, and here also we are running a loop n times inside this, right? So the overall time complexity of this particular code is order of n square. Now this time complexity can be optimized further into linear time. There is a possible solution where we can solve this question in order of n time, right? So in the second part of this question, the constraints are higher. So in that we won't be able to apply the n square approach. There we will have to discuss the order of n approach only, right? So in the video of the second part of this question, we will discuss about the linear approach of this problem. For now, let's code this solution. So first of all, let's create a map which will be a pair of character, comma integer. The value will be an integer and we will name it n. Then we will run a for loop of start. So start equals to 0, start less than s dot length, start plus plus. Then inside this, we will create some variables. So one will be the current character, which will be denoted by the start index in string s, and next will be an integer, which will denote the length of the substring. Then we will run another for loop of end starting from start and going till s dot length, right? We'll do end plus plus. Now inside this, we need to check that if the end index in string s is equals to the current character, then in that case, we will increment the length by 1, and in the map, we will update it. So the character is curl and the length is length. So we will increment it by 1. Otherwise, if these two characters are not equal, then we will break this loop. Once we are done with populating our map, we'll create a variable answer which will denote our answer. Then we will iterate inside the map. So for auto I in MP. Now inside this, we will first take the length of the substring which will be present in I dot first dot second, right? Now, if I dot second, that is the value, is greater than equals to 3 and length is greater than answer, then in that case answer will be updated to length. At the end we can check that if answer is equals to 0, then return a -1, otherwise return answer, right? So let's run this code. So our test cases are accepted. Let's submit this. So it got accepted. Thank you so much for watching. Please like the video and subscribe our channel.